Dumelang, Afsheni, Ralocha, Sanbonani, Molweni. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the latest edition of the African Diaspora News channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our communities. Now, today's story centers around Iman Khif, who is an Algerian boxer who recently won gold in the women's boxing at the Paris Olympics. But now, a leaked medical report has raised eyebrows across the world, revealing that Khif, despite being allowed to compete in the women's category, has an XY chromosome and characteristics typically associated with male biology. Now, this ignited a firestorm of controversy, if you can only imagine, right? Especially among women's sports advocates, many of whom are now questioning the integrity of women's sports itself. Now, let's break this down, right? And let's do it honestly. Khif was celebrated, given a gold medal, and applauded for her performance in the women's boxing. But now, we're learning that the Olympics allowed a biological male to compete in a category meant for women. Now, this isn't just about sports, right? This is about fairness. The fact that someone who is genetically male with male physical attributes was allowed to compete in this category raises serious ethical questions. Like, was it fair? Was it just? Now, some people are calling for the stripping of Khif's medal, and there's a growing outcry from women's sports advocates like Marcy Smith, who is actually a co-founder of Icons, who has condemned the International Olympic Committee for allowing Khif to compete in the first place. Now, Smith has gone as far as calling it an endorsement for male violence against women in sport. And if this situation wasn't even disturbing enough, we have to consider another deeply troubling comparison, right? For example, Caster Semenya, our very own South African hero, a woman who has long faced discriminatory treatment because of her naturally high levels of testosterone, was actually banned from competing in the Olympics. Now, the argument against Semenya was that her testosterone levels were too high and that this was somehow unfair to other women. But now, we're faced with the reality that a biologically male athlete has been allowed to compete against a woman and take home the gold. Now, this double standard is not only unfair, but it's deeply unjust. How is it that Caster Semenya, a natural-born female athlete, was blocked from competing, while Khif, who is biologically male, was allowed to box against women and claim the highest honor? Now, it's absolutely hard not to see the glaring inconsistency, and it almost feels as though there are different rules depending on your skin color, or your gender, or your background. Because why is that Caster Semenya, a black South African woman, has been subjected to the public scrutiny and punishment of her body's natural composition, while Khif, who is biologically male, gets a free pass to compete in women's boxing? I mean, let's call it what it is, right? White privilege and gender politics that are at play. Semenya's case was framed as a question of fairness, but it feels like it was really about policing the bodies of black women and making them conform to a narrow, Eurocentric standard of what a woman should be in sport. And let's not even forget the hypocrisy. Those who questioned Khif's eligibility were actually silenced and branded as racist or transphobic for speaking out against what they saw as an unfair situation. And this is the world that we live in now, where anyone who dares to challenge the status quo is labeled with the worst slurs, right? And all this to actually protect a system that benefits only a select few. And I'm not here to attack anyone personally, but I'm here to point out a very real and dangerous trend in global sports, which is the exploitation of women's categories for the benefit of male athletes and the continued silence of voices that demand fairness and integrity in sports. And the question is, what does this say about the future of women's sports? And if we allow biologically male athletes to compete in women's events simply because of they identify as female, where do we draw the line then? What happens to those women who have fought for decades to be seen and heard and respected in their own right? Now, some will say that this is progress, that this is about inclusivity and equality, but inclusivity should not come at the expense of fairness. Women's sports should remain a safe space where women, biologically and culturally, can compete on a level of playing field. And the inclusion of biological males in these spaces, I believe, undermine that principle and puts the entire concept of fair competition at risk. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but we have to ask these hard questions, and not just for the future of women's sports, but for the future of equality and fairness and justice in the world of athletes. I mean, how many more Castas Semenyas are out there whose lives and careers have been derailed while men continue to take opportunities meant for women? And as a South African, right, I stand in solidarity with all the black athletes who have fought for fair chance, who have faced scrutiny, judgment, and discrimination simply for being who they are. We cannot allow the narrative to be hijacked by those who seek to silence the truth in the name of progress. It's time that we actually demand real fairness, where the rules apply equally to everyone, no matter your gender, your skin color, or even your background. Now, that's just my opinion. What is yours? Please, let's continue to engage in the comment section. We really want to hear from you. What do you think about this whole situation? And while you're at it, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me. Till we meet again, it is goodbye for